Back in my happy place, my comfort zone. This is my own private personal crease. It's InGoal Radio, the podcast presented by The Hockey Shop, source for sports Langley, thehockeyshop.com. If I could pick anywhere to hang out, would be with David Hutchison and Kevin Woodley. You guys bring me joy, knowledge, and comfort. It is the goalie union right here. I don't know who the vice president is. I'm not the treasurer, but I can certainly fit on any type of board that you guys want to put me on.
We're just happy to have you on our team.
It's so much fun hanging out with you guys. We just talk goaltending, and the people that listen, subscribe, and are part of this. We couldn't do it without you. Quite frankly, it'd be quite lonely, even though I like hanging out with Woody and Hutch. You make it worthwhile. And Hutch, as the voice of reason on the podcast, you are our beacon, our shining light to keep us within the lane.
Oh, that's too kind of you. I was going to say that all those listeners that send a note into us are part of the very same conversation too, because we inevitably forward that note to everybody else in the group chat here. And so if you want to have a chat with all three of us and get involved in the conversation, send a note to info@ingoalmag.com. We'd love to hear from you.
And it doesn't have to be a really intricate question or inquiry. Any type of interaction is great. What happened in your game? Did you get hosed by the referee because the net came off and they didn't call it? Like anything that gets a conversation going, we love it. And if you had some kind of meltdown, find out how it would compare to Woody's meltdowns. Like that's the barometer. Would it be a 2 out of 5 on the Woody scale? Would it be a 5 on the 5 on the Woody scale?
5 Woodies.
5 Woodies. We got a lot to get
Quite
to
the
today.
scale.
It's going to be an awesome show. This episode is going to include our parent segment brought to you by Stop It Goaltending U, the app. The NHL Sense Arena feature interview is going to chat with Devin Cooley and NHL Sense Arena, a big part of Devin Cooley's progression to the National Hockey League.
Sure is. We usually use this part of the podcast, Aaron, to talk up Sense Arena and tell everybody why we think it's so awesome and why we think they should go give it a try. But honestly, I think the message is listen to the feature interview. You're going to think that we actually set up these interviews just to pump Sense Arena's tires, but that's not what happens. Kevin kind of hears through the grapevine that somebody's used it and might ask the question, but that's exactly what ends up happening. And we get to find out how Devin Cooley got started with Sense Arena, how important it is for him, how he uses it. And so I'm just going to say this right now. Goalies and parents, grab yourself a Meta Quest headset. Head over to the main Meta store in your headset and try Sense Arena this summer, just like Devin Cooley, Joey Decord, Devin Levi, even Kevin Woodley uses it on vacation. And if you're heading on vacation, you're going to find out you don't have to pack the stinky gear. You can just bring your headset, try some drills every day while you're at the beach, while you're at the cottage, while you're camping. Maybe even try the Joey Decord game day routine like Devin Cooley. Enough said, guys. It's the best off-ice tool in the game for helping you become a better goaltender.
And I'll go back to the warm-up utilization of Sense Arena, NHL Sense Arena. You can work on just your glove hand, work on just blocker saves. It's unbelievable how you can just dial it in before you get on the ice. And if you are a recreation goaltender and you go through that 2-minute warm-up where everybody's shooting 3 pucks at one time and 4 at your head. I know that math doesn't work, but if you're part of a men's league warm-up, rec league warm-up, it does.
It does.
There's actual real usage and benefit to using it as a warm-up.
Absolutely. But like, it's for anyone that can't get on the ice on a regular basis, right? Or like you said, doesn't have a proper warm-up. I mean, if they're using it in the National Hockey League to get ready to play a game like Devin Cooley and Joey Decord do, enough said, right? Like, and Devin Levi, right? Like a lot of big names using this. I think we're going to see more and more kids. And I love that these guys are sort of normalizing it, making it so, if you're a young goalie and you're worried about somebody maybe teasing you because you've got this headset on before a game, you're doing something that looks a little different. All you got to do is point to guys in the National Hockey League that are using it and having success with it. And as Devin Cooley will do in the interview, swear by that process as well.
No, if anybody teases you, I'm talking to the listeners right now. If anybody teases you, send me a note. Tell me their name and I'll deal with it. All right? We're not going to put up with that. Zero bullying. We totally stand up to that in its most innocent form. If people just think it's joking, but if there's a little bit of bullying to it, we'll stand up to that. But if anybody's bullying you because you're using NHL Sense Arena to make your game better, seriously, send me a note. I'll grab my buddies Kevin and Hutch, and we will deal with it. With that coach,
Darren's a 5 on the Woodley scale.
Person, we will deal with it.
5 Woodies.
Yeah. No. We got a few more to go with that. But you might see 5 Woodies if somebody's teasing or picking on somebody for making their game better. Because why would you tease somebody or make fun of them for trying to improve their game when they're probably on your team? That's most likely where it's happening, and it's going to benefit your team. That's where I just drives me a little bit around the bend. The hockey shop
sounds like a parent segment coming up because it happens all the time.
Yeah, you're true.
And I don't just mean about NHL Sense Arena. Guys on teams, get on the guys who try hard and work hard. Let's make that a future parent segment starring Darren Millard.
What are you going to do in the parent segment today? Presented by the Stop It Goaltending U app.
We're going to have a little chat, boys, about what you can say to your goaltender after they've had a tough game. And I don't mean an hour later or that evening. I mean that awkward moment when all the parents are hanging out in the lobby waiting for the kids to come out of the dressing room. It's been a tough game. Your goalie walks through all those parents. What can you say to them? We'll get there. You think about it, boys. We can have a chat in a few minutes.
And of course, that will be brought to you by the Stop It Goaltending U app, the world's most comprehensive app for goalies, goalie parents, and goalie coaches. The goal isn't just to stop the puck with the Stop It Goaltending U app, it's to become unstoppable. No coach, scout, parent, or person is going to stop you from following your dreams and maximizing your potential as a goalie. Become unstoppable in just 30 minutes a week using the Stop It Goaltending U app, and the extra time you'll have, you'll be able to dedicate it to reading InGoal magazine, because as of now, 2 titans have united. The Stop It Goaltending U app and InGoal magazine have partnered up. Everyone that subscribes to the Stop It Goaltending U app will get free access to InGoal magazine. The best of both worlds of goaltending, the best way to get better as a goaltender, to read both. Make sure you check it out wherever. It's at thestopitgoaltending.com. You can go to the app download there, or on the App Store, or at Google Play.
There's more information between Stop It Goaltending U in the app and InGoal than anybody can devour. And I say that with all due respect to the most passionate fan, but there's not enough hours in the day to go through all the gear segments, all the ProReads, all the drills, and then on the Stop It Goaltending U, the tips from the goaltenders themselves, the gear segment, the lessons. It's just overwhelming how much information is there.
You know what? But we're about to come up on the summer, the slow months, the summer months. You know what we hear most from goalie coaches? The biggest problem with young goaltenders? They don't watch hockey. They don't embrace the game. They don't watch enough games. And there's no better way to learn how to sort of read and process the game than our ProReads at InGoalMag.com. And as you said, Darren, there are literally hundreds of them up there now. Videos of us sitting down with NHL goalies, reviewing plays, getting tips, getting directions, figuring out why they play certain shots a certain way, when they go into the post, when they square up, how they manage their depth, all those decisions, what side of a screen to look around. And you can devour that. If you're a young goaltender, wait till school's over, head into the summer. If you're worried there's too much on there, just spend some time in the off season and you'll be a better goaltender when the fall rolls around for having done so. Pretty much every goalie coach we talk to agrees, just not enough kids taking advantage of it.
And Stop It Goaltending U, the app, you've got goaltenders, high-level goaltenders in their gear, walking you through different tips and safe selections. And it is marvelous. Trust me on that. It's a rabbit hole. And my house is littered with those rabbit holes as I've been down, and spending a lot of time on Stop It Goaltending U. Unbelievable stuff from Brian and company. Let's get into some conversation in and around the Stanley Cup playoffs and the idea that you can lean on one goaltender is being pushed way, way farther away with the Boston Bruins flip-flopping in the early stages before settling on Jeremy Swayman. But we've got 3 teams that have already consciously made decisions to start multiple goaltenders. You've got a couple of others that have made in-goal changes, and the Vancouver Canucks have started 3 different goaltenders. So if you don't have depth, and we're not just talking a backup, like significant depth within your organization, you may not be able to win a Stanley Cup anymore.
Yeah, it's like 16 teams in the playoffs, and we've already got 6 of them are down using more than one. You mentioned the Islanders going from Varlamov to start to Sorokin and back to Varlamov. Boston swapping with Swayman and Ullmark early. Vancouver, Demko, injury. DeSmith, injury. Artur Silovs is in there right now as the third guy. Winnipeg starts with Hellebuck. Laurent Brossoit saw some action tonight after he got pulled. Toronto pulled Ilya Samsonov and went to Joseph Woll last night. Wouldn't be surprised to see Woll get a start. And if I'm going to be brutally honest, I'm a little surprised he didn't get a start before this. And then the LA
Los
Kings
Angeles, yeah,
going to David Rittich tonight. And again, there's another one where, listen, I get it on some levels, but from a statistical argument, that's a switch that could have been made earlier as well, at least in terms of how they performed overall in the regular season. David Rittich was a top 5 adjusted save percentage guy in the NHL this year.
Right. And if it's not working, why not make a change just to give it a different look? I don't mind it at all. What the LA Kings have done.
You don't have a lot of time. You don't have a lot of time.
Yeah, and I don't like putting it all on one guy either. At the end, Boston did it last year with Swayman. It's a lot to level on the shoulders of somebody. You have to win or else it's over. And you're the guy standing there at the end when it wins, and you didn't have much rope to deal with.
Yeah, and I mean, Swayman's case last year, 2 weeks without a start, and then boom, here you go, Game 7. So I like the way they've done it early on there. Swayman's been fantastic all year against the Bruins. He's continued that. So not surprised to see them, go to him in back-to-back starts because he was so good and because he has that track record. He's number 1 in the NHL playoffs in adjusted save percentage, but it's not like Linus Ullmark was bad. He's number 2, right? So that was just sort of both going well. One guy just owns a particular team, and we've seen a lot of talk about, is he in the Leafs' head? So certainly you're going to go back to that guy. Wouldn't at all be shocked if it goes the other way later in the playoffs.
Talked to Jake Allen, our buddy from the New Jersey Devils now, and he was on the Chirp podcast with me. We were walking through a bunch of goaltending situations, and he was ahead of this before they stuck with Swayman for game number 4. He thought it was a foregone conclusion. He painted the picture. After game 1 and 2, that's our plan. And then it's open for interpretation. Do you think that was the case, or do you think the situation of Swayman's performance in games 1 and 3 turned the tide?
We've seen that model a whole lot in international hockey, haven't we?
Yes.
World Championships, Olympics, you're bringing a couple of really good goaltenders with you, so you give them each a shot, and then you sort of see what happens. That would, if they carried over that sort of a vision for things, you could understand it.
Yeah, I agree. And the one thing is, like I said, though, they've gone back and forth all year. So this is fine for now, but I think you almost reset again in round 2. I don't know if you get into a situation where you just keep rolling Jeremy Swayman. I know he's out. I know Jeremy Swayman's a young goaltender, and he probably isn't going to have any problems in terms of getting fatigued, but he's never done it because of the nature of their tandem, just like they talked about with Ullmark last year. Hadn't played that many games in a row all year. Why would you start now?
Really interesting bit of analysis there, that after you get through Toronto, things could move in a different direction, because most people would be locked in right now that Swayman's the guy as deep as they would go.
And he's playing well, so there's an argument to be made there. But it's funny because I think I heard from a lot of people in the playoffs saying, you got to go Swayman has been the better goaltender all year. Statistically, he wasn't. Statistically, he was slightly below Linus Ullmark from an adjusted save percentage standpoint. So numbers don't say the whole story. And like I said, Swayman's dominated the Bruins all year, absolutely owns them. But depending on the next opponent, depending on how things start, I just think they won't be hesitant to go back and forth with both of them. I'll be curious to see if they do, like you said, the international sort of plan again in round 2. Play them both and go from there.
Logan Thompson was brilliant in a game 3 loss for the Vegas Golden Knights overtime there. Just shelled for the first 30 minutes of that game. Jake Ottinger, really consistent. Looks like he's worked his way through there. It's a 2-1 series lead as we record this for the Vegas Golden Knights. The best series, though, from a goaltending fan, has to be that Florida Tampa Bay set. You can't get anything better than the two superstars and Vezina Trophy winners and Stanley Cup champion than Sergei Bobrovsky and Andrei Vasilevsky, the big cat against goalie Bob. It's been marvelous.
Yeah, there's been lots of great highlight saves. That one where Bob got turned around, and like all goalies will when they make a save that isn't when, the highlight reel, that's because they're a little behind the play. First thing he said in the post game is, I got behind the play. But the ability to sort of find desperation and to spin around and get that with the back of his arm, take an empty net away. The rule is, right, like, yeah, it's desperation. Yeah, it's find something. But what do you want to find? It's get something to the middle of the net, because most guys staring at a wide open net aren't picking a corner. You get something in the middle of the net, and the guy did him a favor and hit him right in the arm.
Oh, and that takes a level of athleticism that not everybody has. It's one thing for us to say that there was a little bit of luck involved, but man, you've got to have athletic skill to put yourself in that position.
Yeah, he was spinning like a top in there. It was, I would have been in the corner, probably collapsed, lying flat on my stomach.
Just another comment from Jake on that was, it's easy to react if you're the goaltender and make a move, but it's like you got to be in a zone to actually put yourself in a position to legitimately make a save and go that extra little bit to take apart the middle of the net like that. He called that being in the zone, being able to make that save, not just turning around and flailing your arm. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. How many guys get stuck in a difficult position and sort of just get caught flat-footed, knees buckle, and they watch the puck go into the net?
Yeah,
I think that's a fair comment. Makes me think of something I was going to bring up later today, but Pete Fry's thing about the fans' mindset versus the athlete mindset. And I think too often, once our knees buckle, we turn into fan mindset and just hope the puck doesn't go in the net. But not so with Bob.
It was spectacular to watch.
It was all, and Vasi's been like really good too. Not as he didn't have the save, but boy, oh boy, yeah, he's come up with some splendid performances, and just those hips that go out. Every time he butterflies, I have both pain and admiration when he makes a save.
Pain and admiration. I like it.
Yeah. That's the butterfly. Let's get into our gear segment, brought to you by The Hockey Shop, source for Sports Langley, thehockeyshop.com. And this one deals with the Warrior wheel bag, wheelies. Now, are we wheelie guys or are we non-wheelie guys? It's one of the most divisive topics in hockey, the wheel bag or the carry bag. What are you guys?
You're totally setting us up for another parent segment, aren't you? I was a wheel guy. I had no trouble. Technology invented the wheel, and I'm fine with us using it. The only time I wasn't a fan of it was coaching really young kids in a really small dressing room, and everybody had those giant wheeled compartmentalized bags, and you couldn't fit them all in the room. So that's the one little issue I have with them. But this week's one is a beautiful one. I will say, as we've mentioned a few times before, guys, that all the gear segments are available over on YouTube. And this one has a little bit more at the beginning than the audio version you'll get on the podcast. So you might want to go check it out on YouTube.
We aim to entertain. I, however, am a carry bag guy, Darren, but it has nothing to do with pride or any stupidity about, not having wheels on your
pride,
bag.
Woody.
It's
pride.
Well, it's pride related to wanting a nice car. That's all it is.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, because if I had a truck, I'd have a wheel bag. I don't have a truck. I have a car with the trunk, and there's no way I'm putting that hard rib plastic and pulling it out across the back of my nice car. So
that's it for me too. It's the vehicle that I happen to be driving at the time.
Yeah, wheel bags are tough
bag all day
on a
long.
trunk. Really tough on a trunk if you're pulling it out. Like and then the plastic on the bottom tends to crack and break if you're shoving it in there and pushing it in there,
squeezing it. Yeah,
I hate when those cars are so tough on my hockey equipment. That's what you mean, right?
Yeah, it's the car's fault.
I'm sensing a little bit of bullying, and I'm not going to stand for you bullying my buddy Woody. You apologize to my friend Kevin.
I'm sorry, Kevin.
I'd give you the full 5 Woodies here, Hutch, but you know what? I'm just excited about what's going on at the hockey shop. So I'm going to mellow out again. Picture my fun times with Cam. We have the Warrior wheel bag. there is another launch from Warrior that we weren't quite able to record the gear segment on because they didn't have the pads in advance, but we'll be there this week to give you a breakdown. Cam's already got it on his socials, the new Warrior G7 line. You can check that out at the Hockey Shop, on the Hockey Shop social media spots. And they got a whole bunch extra Warrior G6 in stock right before the Warrior G7 launch. So they've got a massive sale on the Warrior G6, and it's not just sort of the leftovers. It's not what's been sitting around this whole time. They went out and stocked up on extra available Warrior G6 because it was a pretty popular line, and they want to make sure they're selling it out at discount prices as the Warrior G7 rolls out. So we'll have more on the new line next week from Cam, but this week it's bags and the Warrior bag. And as Hutch said, listen, but then make sure you check this one out on the YouTube channel as well. It's a goodie. Cam already welcomed us back to the Hockey Shop, but we woke him up, got him on the bench because we wanted to find out a little bit more about goalie bags and this new option from Warrior.
Yes, Warrior Ritual goalie bag. So the reason why we're talking about this is A, we haven't talked about bags in a while, and two, we actually really like this wheel bag. And we don't really agree on a whole lot of things, but we agree this is a nice wheel bag. It's big.
As wheel bags go.
Dimensions, 44
24
by 24.
So basically it's almost 4 feet long by 2 feet wide by 2 feet tall.
For reference, I'm 6 foot tall, and there was space inside here. So for those of you that are planning on putting your pads and everything else inside of this bag,
maybe including your local Hockey Shop representative.
Yes. Might be a little hard to wheel afterwards, as you found out.
Back surgery is coming.
So, again, why? This bag's huge, and it's got compartments, which is something like in terms of for when it comes to wheel bags, you don't really just see a big bag with wheels. You've got separate compartments that you can pop your skates in on both sides. Your undergarments and things like that, you can keep totally separate. The liner's a nice, thick nylon, with the outside being a heavy-duty, almost like canvas, tent-like material, we'll call it. But either way, in terms of her stopping those skates from, say, punching through that bag, or other skates when people step on your bag, for example, you got some good defense against that.
Yeah, my defense would be stay the hell away from where I'm getting changed, rest of my teammates. This is my area, and bugger off. But not everybody gets that type of, not everybody's the snap show that I am and gets that type of sensitivity. No. Cam, do I spot a stick carrying compartment?
Oh, you found it. That's exactly
pretty cool.
Yes, you can slide your sticks in through the side of the bag.
Got a little like umbrella holder on a golf bag.
Exactly, but for your goal sticks. So in terms of keeping everything together, this bag's one of the best.
Okay, so Cam, obviously we saw the whole wall of bags. He's got a whole bunch of options. You have wheel bags from Vaughn.
Yes.
Bauer, I believe CCM as well.
And Brian.
And for those who don't want wheel bags, I saw True. I saw Warrior, which has always been a bit of a staple. You can get team logos put on those through
CCM.
Through the team sales department. Lots of things there. So there are lots
CCM,
of options.
Bauer. Sorry, I had to make sure we hit them all.
We did hit them all, but there's a reason you picked this one.
Yes.
Durability. You have found that in terms of returns and people not having problems with, like you said, skate cuts and things punching through and the durability of the bag, this one's really holding up.
So let's clarify 100% here. I don't believe there's like one wheel bag 100% that's going to last you forever. So it doesn't exist. That said, so far from what we've seen, this Warrior bag has been one of our best, though. In terms of issues, problems, returns, or anything like that, been very, very low, and we've been very, very happy with it. So that's why we are talking about it today.
And it crosses the border.
It sure does.
If you're buying from the States, you can buy this from thehockeyshop.com. If you got any questions about this bag, other bags, do you need a wheel bag? Can you fit a wheel bag in your car? Just tell Cam what the model of your car is, and I guarantee you he'll go out into the parking lot and do all the measurements to make sure that you can tell whether it fits in your trunk or not. See,
Give me a call here at 604-589-8299 or 1-800-567-7790. I guarantee you I will ask Kevin for help.
Not an automotive expert or Cam Matwiv, but he knows what wheel bags fit in what car. I guarantee it. I promise. Call him. Make sure you bug him a lot about this one.
Check it out at thehockeyshop.com.
Good stuff. The wall of bags, like the pad wall and the glove wall, and it's all impressive. But that wall of hockey bags at the hockey shop, goalie bags and skaters, it's just impressive looking up there and seeing that amount of space dedicated to something.
You know what? And I should say, I don't know if I can't remember if we did in the gear segment or not, but the hockey shop has a massive custom business. Jerseys, uniforms, workout wear. If you've got a minor hockey team or a beer league team and you want custom uniforms, they'll take care of you. And that includes bags. You can get custom logos done on your bags, whether it's beer league, minor hockey, whatever, including a whole bunch of those ones you see up on that wall there. And I have one, my beer league team. We had the team logo, the sort of Seahawks logo wearing a Jofa. We had that done on our beer league bags a few years ago, and the guys loved it. So not only do they have all those bags, but you've got the option to customize them as well.
There was a team in Vegas for a men's league tournament this weekend. I think they were the Sioux City Mallards, and they had 3 sets of jerseys, 3 complete sets of jerseys, and they were Mallards across it. And I actually asked them, I said, find me a way to get a jersey. Find a way to get me one of those jerseys. It was amazing. So I'm right in with you with the custom stuff. Does Warrior ship across the states if we got some American friends looking to cash in on the great deals at the hockey shop?
Yeah, whether it's a new Warrior G7, the Warrior G6 line that's on sale, or that great bag we just unveiled in the gear segment this week, you can order that from the States from the hockey shop, hockeyshop.com, and it will ship across the border. Now, I know people get upset. We were talking about this before. There are some companies that they're not allowed to ship across the border. CCM and Bauer, I believe, are 2 of them. Please, folks, when that happens, do not take it out on our good friends at the hockey shop. It's not their fault. It's the rules they play by. And frankly, every company on either side of the border, shipping in both directions, is supposed to play by those rules when it comes to those equipment companies. So hands are tied by the companies they work with, but not in the case of the Warrior Bag G6 or G7 line at the hockey shop and thehockeyshop.com.
Just call your local politician. They love to hear about it. If you're complaining about hockey stuff, they'll listen. Roads and potholes, they're not going to pay any attention. But mess with the hockey stuff, they'll really dive in and help you out. Let's go over to Hutch, our guiding light. He does make sure that we are in the proper lane on this podcast. If we swerve a little bit, he brings us back without admonishing our behavior. That is why he created and is the producer of the Parent segment, brought to you by Stop It Goaltending U, the app. And this week, helping out our goaltenders when things get a little bumpy.
Yeah, this is one that I've held on to since I was a young goaltender, and I had more than my fair share of bad games. When you have a tough game, what can you say to your kid immediately after the game? And that's that difficult moment in the lobby as you're waiting or wherever it might be. I just remember walking out and so many parents, good game, Hutch, good game, Hutch. And I knew that it was not a good game. I was not happy. And it upset me even more to hear good game, Hutch. So what do you say? And I ran this one by my kid after I'd written the whole Parent segment out for this week, guys. I said to Maddie, what do you want to hear? And immediately he said, don't say good game. So there's the first one. I know you want to make your kid feel better. I know you want as a parent to say the right thing to them. They've had a tough time. Don't tell them they've had a good game. Don't immediately blame anybody else. We don't want to say your defense sucked. You had no support out there. Like, even if it's true, that's not what we're going to say, because our job as a goaltender is to be there to help our team when they do make mistakes. After all, guys, if the team was perfect, there wouldn't be any shots at all. So
I'm a little lost right now because now I've got nothing else to say. I can't say good game and I can't blame anybody else.
Nope, you can't, but we're going to get there.
I just tell my kid she sucks.
Okay, I've actually said that sometimes, but he knows I'm kidding and it gets a laugh out of him. But no, we don't want to blame anybody else. And I don't think, we want our kids to accept responsibility, guys. And I think any half competitive kid would feel exactly the same way. That's where I was talking about Pete Fry. He actually talks about having the athlete mindset and wanting your team to turn the puck over. Pete thinks as a goaltender, you should be looking at every situation, hoping it's going to result on a shot so that you can make a save. So So we're not going to blame anybody else. I do hope, and this should go without saying, that you're not going to do what Woody just said and tell your kid that they suck or they played a bad game. They don't need your help, Woody. They're upset enough. I don't even think a coach should say that to a goalie too often. But as a parent, you certainly don't need to. So we're not going to justify. We're not going to tell them, hey, you had 75 shots on goal. Don't worry about it. It's our job to deal with it. And I think if you do say that, it's probably going to fall on deaf ears. So what can you say? I think my answer is nothing. My answer is you give them a hug, you give them a pat on the back, whatever you guys are comfortable with, because I know not all teenagers want to be hugged in the lobby in front of other kids. Whatever it is, I don't think words are even required. You just need to make it clear somehow that you're there for them. Sometimes I'll say, I'm proud of you, especially if it's after one of those games where you and they know that they're in a really tough spot. So that might be along the lines of your defense sucked, but sometimes you're just against an overmatched team or playing for an overmatched team. And if you said to them, I'm really proud of you today, I think that helps. And ideally, guys, I think you want to be specific so that the words have real meaning. I'm proud of you because of how you battled right through to the end of that game. If that's something you saw happen, I'm proud of you how you never lost your composure like Uncle Woody does all the time. I'm proud of you because even though your team was out of it really early in the game, you actually had your best period in the third period and didn't give up any goals or only gave up a couple, whatever it might be. If you can be specific and tell your kid you're proud of them, I think that's great. The other one that I like to throw in there sometimes is, quite frankly, guys, I love you and I love watching you play. I think it's important for them to know that when they're really feeling down. So those are the kind of things that I typically do. Sometimes, and it's kind of a rare one, but sometimes you can hold this one in your back pocket. I know you're not feeling well right now. I know you're not happy right now, but you're going to look back on that game sometime and you're going to realize you actually had a great game, because there will be those nights. You have to be honest in everything that you say to a kid because they can see through dishonesty. You have to be honest so that when you have words to share, that they have power to them, because when you do say good game, it's going to mean it. So those are my thoughts, guys. I would love to know what you guys think in a second. I just want to remind all the parents out there that we would love to hear from them and what they say to their young goalies after tough games. parents@ingoalmag.com. So, Darren, you've been a goalie since you were knee-high to a grasshopper. What did you like to hear if you ever had a tough game?
No, your point about I like how you handled the situation, or I love the way you didn't get caught up in the antics as your other teammates were losing their tempers. I think that's a real positive reinforcement of being able to be mature along the line. That's a life lesson too, not just a hockey lesson. So I had not thought of that angle, but I'm really grabbed by the idea of being proud of my child, the way they were able to keep it together and be mature about the situation.
Yeah, I think I had a professor in teachers college who used the phrase "catch them being good" as something that as teachers we need to do, because telling somebody they're doing something bad really doesn't often help. But if you tell a kid that they've done something well, they're going to want to please you till the end of time, and they will keep doing it, as we all do. I mean, every now and then Woody actually tells me I've done a good job, and I want to keep doing that.
I deny that accusation.
So, Woody, what do you want to hear after a tough game? What do you want to hear from your family as they're waiting in the lobby after your latest beer league debacle?
Good game?
First time will be the last time.
I've seen your family at a game I was at even.
Not good game. I love this segment. You're absolutely right. If it isn't a good game, that's the last thing you want to hear is good game. I have, in fact, jokes aside, I never tell my kid she sucks. I have, I'm sure, after her volleyball games, when things haven't gone well, subconsciously tried to find things, and not even thinking of it as a planned thing the way you're talking, Hotshot, but I love the idea of just trying to find things you like, whether it's compete or moments or trying to pick the team up and, you know, get them going when everybody's down. And the one thing that you said there that really resonated was, and I've said it a lot to her, I just love to watch her play. Like, it just brings me joy to watch her compete and play, and that's not based on winning or losing. It's the competitiveness, it's the moments within the game that I cherish, and making sure she knows that. Although I got to be honest, you have to judge your kids as people. And there are times when she just doesn't want to hear anything right after a game. And so,
which is what I started with.
Yeah, understanding the silence part of it is something, as you guys may find this hard to believe, I struggle with that sometimes, just being quiet. But I've learned to just zip it every once in a while and maybe ask a few open-ended questions if I can sense she's really upset. Just see if she'll share and talk and allow her to vent and get it out of the way.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good one that we could get to down the road, Woody. For me, this was just sort of the lobby talk as opposed to, the chatter at home afterwards or whatever.
Oh, it was great. It was great, Hutch. It was great.
Quite often it ends with, where do you want me to buy you a steak as well? Because we got to do something on those after those tough games.
It's a Dairy Queen for us.
Hold on. Steak?
What?
Like what happened to just like the Frosty drive-through on the way home? We've gone from ice cream to steak?
Oh, the games got pretty tough sometimes.
So the Darren note to Darren and Kevin: invite Hutch to watch us play beer league, and then suck. We're getting a steak dinner out of this thing,
guys. When your kid lives at home, and it happens a lot, you can drive through the Frosty lineup. When your kid lives with somebody else, and you only get to see him here and there, it's a steak. I have a funny story I shared with you guys on text message when it happened. But my son was having one of his toughest games of the year. It was one of those situations where I don't think it was expected to go very well, and he was having a disastrous game. And I watched walk in Dylan Playfair, one of the actors from Letterkenny. And I thought, I got to do this. I got to go say hi to him. I went over, I said, Dylan, I really sorry to bug you, buddy, but my son is having a terrible day. And I sort of pointed down towards the end zone, but I didn't make it clear who my son was. I said, he's having a terrible day, but he's a huge fan of you and your show. Do you think you and I could get a selfie with him to cheer him up? And he's like, oh, for sure. And he points down towards the ice level as well, where a bunch of kids are playing. He said, which one is yours? I said, the goalie. And we both had a good laugh. We got the selfie taken. And I swear to God, as soon as we took the selfie, what is in the background of the picture but another breakaway on Matthew in the background? I didn't get to see the breakaway, but he came up with the save, so that was kind of cool. And after a tough game, when he was not a happy boy, getting the photo, not in the lobby, made for a good laugh later.
That's wild. And a win-win. Like the parent actually gets something out of it.
Yeah. Oh, I had fun doing it too. And let's face it, as a parent in these tough situations, as Woody alluded to, you're often looking for, what can I do to help? You want to help so badly. So
what does the parent want to hear after a bad game from the other parents?
You know what? Let's make that the next segment, or let's make that a future segment. Let's not go there, but I think it's a great question, Darren. And maybe before we can do a little research here, parents at ingoalmag.com, what do you want to hear from the other parents?
Like it. Hey, I should remind you.
Your kid left my kid out to dry.
Yeah.
I got to remind.
Five Woodies, fist fight in the lobby.
Tarps off. Let's go.
Yeah.
I got to remind everyone, I know we did the big read earlier, but the parenting segment is brought to you by Stop It Goaltending U app, our new partners. Reminder, not only it is the greatest app for goaltenders, goalie coaches, and goalie parents, but now when you purchase a subscription to Stop It Goaltending U, the app, you automatically get a free subscription to InGoal magazine. The best of both worlds when it comes to improving as a goaltender, goalie coach, and goalie parent.
Plenty of great advice coming up in our feature interview brought to you by NHL Sense Arena with Devin Cooley, who made just a marvelous debut in his hometown this year with the San Jose Sharks. And there is a lot in here. And I love the interviews that inspire Woody to send a text to Hutch and I right away saying, you guys are going to love this.
And then I'm editing it and I send my kid a text as I'm editing it. You're going to love this. And I did it with this one as well. He made a fabulous debut in the NHL this year, and he made a fabulous debut on the podcast.
And I got to say, I'm not going to give too much away, although there is a lot of energy. And yes, we do talk right away about his famous quote about everybody's going to die and his mental approach to the game. But we get into everything here. His enthusiasm for the position, for the sport, for life is infectious, and it made this a really, really fun interview. And a little teaser, He also stuck around and we did 45 minutes of video breakdowns for ProReads. So there is lots of great tips coming from Devin Cooley in the very immediate future at InGoalMag.com.
It's the feature interview brought to you by NHL Sensorina on InGoal Radio, the podcast.
Really excited to welcome to the InGoal Radio podcast a first-time guest, but an InGoal Magazine subscriber, Devin Cooley of the San Jose Sharks. When I looked that up and found that out, Devin, I was like, this is awesome. Those are the moments that we live for here at InGoal, when we find that guys that have come up through the ranks and pros and making their NHL debuts like you did late this season actually knew who we were, knew what InGoal is all about. I love it.
Yeah, you guys have been doing some awesome stuff for the goalie community, so I'm happy to be a part of it.
What's this last little stretch been like for you? You make your NHL debut, you get your first NHL win, and it's in your hometown, playing for your hometown team, the San Jose Sharks. Walk us through the emotions of the past couple of months.
Yeah, it's just been like crazy. Like since the trade deadline, like getting traded, didn't know I was going to be going to San Jose at all. So then I get traded within one day. Like I'm going from Buffalo to San Jose or Rochester to San Jose, and then I get a call from my agent. He goes, "Hey, you're going to be playing your first NHL games," like blah blah blah, and like for my hometown team, like it was just insane. And obviously to get my first win in there too, and first game out of the way, it's definitely a huge weight off the shoulders, and have a few good ones in there too to like prove to myself like I can play in this league, I can be a great goalie in this league. You know, it was just a really cool, really special.
I was going to say a couple outstanding ones in there. I would say the St. Louis game, 34 on 36, and then Seattle against your old friend Joey Decord, 49 to 50. What I said, whirlwind. You know, and I think goalies, maybe not to this degree, maybe not being traded in the NHL, making your NHL debut and your hometown being mixed in, but I think goalies at every level go through situations that are, you know, crazy and feel harried and a lot of things going on. How'd you ground yourself?
Yeah, I think like one thing about goalies, especially when you get to pros, because there's not that many goalies in each organization. You know, you only have like if you're a backup in the American League, you're only like a couple injuries or a couple trades away from like being in the NHL, you know? So it's like things can change really quick. And that's one thing I've learned like throughout my pro career is that like you could be not having the best year, you could be frustrated with where you're at or blah, blah, blah. And then literally within one day, it's like you're being thrown into a situation, you're being given a great opportunity. It's just like you never know when that's going to happen, you know? So it's been pretty crazy. But obviously, yeah, like trying to ground myself. I don't know if you've been seeing like all the media, me and like my certain sayings and whatnot.
We may have brought up, you know, the one, I think it was after the Seattle game, you know, the nobody cares one, which of course, like we may have mentioned that on the podcast a couple of weeks ago when we were trying to get you as a guest. But I mean, we all know it, right? Like it's really easy to say to ourselves, stay in the moment, but that's one of the things that helps you do so.
For sure. Yeah. And it's like when I say like nothing matters, nobody cares, we're all going to die, you know, it's like, of course it matters. You know, it matters to me like a ton. Like I want to do so well. But I found that when I want to do so well and I'm trying so hard to do so well, that's when I can kind of like screw myself a little bit. And so if I can be like, oh, it doesn't matter, I really don't care. Like it's just like whatever happens, happens. You know, I can just focus and be in the present moment and not being like, oh, I've made, 49 out of 50 saves. Or I'm making so many saves. This game is going so well. Like we're almost there. I just got to really push through. It's like, as soon as I do that, it's just a distraction, So instead it's like, I look up and I'm like, okay, I've made freaking 45 saves. I've only let in one goal or whatever. It's just like, I can be like, nobody cares about that. Like, it's not going to get you anywhere. Like, blah, blah. It's like, it's super negative, but it keeps me really grounded. And it's the same way, like, if you give up a crappy goal or like literally right after my Seattle game, I got freaking lit up for 8 goals, brutal against Edmonton. And it protects you from getting too low and too down on yourself too. Like you're giving up 8 goals. I'm like, 8 goals, like 22 shots. Like, wow, it must really suck, instead of like really beating myself over, I'm just like, nobody cares. No one's going to remember this game, and I look back and I'm like, hopefully, at the end of my career, I can look back at that game and just kind of laugh at it. Like it really had no effect on the overall outcome of things. And I think it's just a good mantra because goalies, like you can't be too high, you can't be too low. You'll drive yourself crazy. I think if you can just stay very level-headed throughout your whole career, like it's going to be super beneficial.
Any other, like obviously that mantra got a lot of traction, the quote got a lot of traction, or is there any other advice, for how you arrived at that yourself, like as a goaltender, moving up the ranks, to understanding the importance of level-headedness and staying in the moment, and maybe any other tools that you've used to sort of achieve that. Because, like you said, you went into some pretty big moments late in the season that didn't seem to be trending that way.
Yeah. So I also say there are no thoughts, there is no future. And I just repeat that over and over again in my head. I find that in the middle of a game, if I can just repeat phrases over and over again, like in my head, it just keeps me from, it blocks everything else out. It keeps me from thinking about the score. It keeps me from thinking about like how much time is left or how the game's going or blah, blah. So like I'll repeat like those couple phrases just like over and over again when I find my mind wandering. And while I'm doing that, I'm just like watching the puck, especially when it's on the other end and you don't have to worry about your peripherals. I just like watch the puck the whole time. And I'm just like saying those phrases over and over again. And it really kind of puts you in a trance, helps me get in that like flow state. What else do I like to do? Oh, I like to like on face-offs, I'll check the D hands, like what hand they shoot. And I'll check the wingers, what hands they are. So if say you have 2D who have like a kind of hard to explain, but if you have a left-handed D and a right-handed D and like they're on the outsides, I'll be like D on the outside, D on the outside, and I'll see if there's any one-timers. And so I'll be like D on the outside, one-timer to the left. And that basically means that there's a one-timer. The wing on the left side is on his one-timer and the D have their sticks facing the outside. So now I'll just say that over and over again. I'll be like D on the outside, one-timer to the left, D on the outside, one-timer to the left. And so it helps me prepare for the face-off and know that if a D gets a puck, which way I want to look for the screen, like originally, and then it helps me know if there's any one-timers, and it also helps me repeat a phrase over and over again, keep me in the moment, keep me in that flow state, instead of thinking like, oh, what are they going to do up this face-off, or oh, how's the game going, or oh, what are people in the crowd doing? It just keeps me dialed in.
I love it's funny, we just actually ran from Corrine Schroeder for PWHL New York. When the play's at the other end, and she's not having a busy game, she'll start doing play-by-play a little bit to sort of stay engaged. But I love how you say you lock on the puck when it's at the other end to sort of stay in the moment. That's another great tip.
I'll watch the puck the whole time, or if we're on the power play, I'll kind of like not a play-by-play, but I'll like look and try to figure out what they're going to do next. Like try to be okay, this guy has the puck on my team right now. He has this option and this option, and I'll be like constantly scanning. And it's the same mindset, when they're in your zone, but when they're in their zone, it keeps you focused and you can kind of like really keeps you just dialed in.
It's funny because I don't think people realize just how hard it is to stay focused for a 60-minute hockey game, because it's actually like 3.5 hours or 2.5 hours, and it's hard and guys' minds wander. So all these little things you do to stay locked in on the puck and present in the moment. Did you work with anyone, a mindset coach, or are these just little things you developed on your own over the years?
These are just things that I've developed on my own. And people say like goaltending is so mental on so many aspects, and a lot of it. And I think that's why it takes goalies so long to develop for the most part. I mean, obviously you have guys that kill it right away, but like guys like me, like I'm a late bloomer, it takes a long time. And I think it's because for me, especially, like there were so many things that I needed to work on mentally. And I've worked with a lot of sports psychologists and blah, blah, but a lot of it came from literally just playing in games and figuring out like what works for me and trying to keep track of everything. I have a whole notes app with like little mental stuff that I review before every game, and just little quirks and things that I do here and there, and that help me stay engaged and help me stay dialed in. And every year it gets better and better, like when I was in juniors, I remember like I had never worked with a sports psychologist before. And I was just like, I have no idea how to prepare for games mentally. I was so lost. And it was like, it was like I was either dominating or I was getting pulled, like it was just like such a freaking mess. And so it took me a really long time to figure it out. But you talk to certain guys already have it like really dialed up. Like Devin Levi, like I played with him in Rochester and Buffalo's organization. The mental side of his game is like pretty incredible. Like I love talking to him and seeing like some of the stuff that he does. And for him to be doing that at like that young of an age is like super impressive, because again, here I am 26. It's like taking me some like freaking 5 years pro or 4 years pro to like figure some of that stuff out. So it's definitely a trick, or it's definitely a little bit of a challenge, but it's different for everybody too. Like you got to find what works for you.
Okay, so the Notes app, I'm curious, a nice little reminder that you've kept over the years. And we've talked to goalies over the years, like guys who keep notebooks, how they're feeling before a game, and then they can look at what they did before a good game and maybe what they did before a bad game and sort of dial in the process. For you, that little notes app and your mental preparation, is it always growing and adding, or are you subtracting, or does it sort of do a little bit of both over time?
Yeah, so I have 2 pages on my notes app. One is just hockey, and one is mental. So like one is like is hockey is like every single time that I learned something new, or say I went through a practice, I was like, oh, I liked when I did that, then I'll write that down so I don't forget it. Or if there's something that I didn't like, I'll like kind of cross it out, and I'm constantly like changing it and adapting it based off, what I'm learning and what I think is better. So that helps keep everything organized. And because I'm not a huge fan. I've tried the journaling thing, and I'm not a big fan of the journaling. I'm not a big fan of just writing and just talking about like a million different things. But I do really like keeping track of like the big things. Like I'll open it right now and maybe read a couple things.
Oh yeah, share. I was gonna ask, but I thought I might be pushing too much, so I like it.
Yeah. So I have like a ton of different things. So I'll go through the mental one first. And so the mental one is just like a bunch of random phrases that I can kind of say to myself. And also things that like help me get over certain things, like when I'm feeling a certain way. So first, like the phrases like I am zen, I'm emotionless, I'm at peace. And then the ones that I told you, there are no thoughts, there is no future, nothing matters, nobody cares. And then for things when you're like feeling a little bit anxious and you're a little bit worried, you say, I'm going to beat my mind today. I'm not afraid to fail. And then if you can't fight the fear and you can't get over that anxiety or whatever, then just do it scared, just push through. Because if you're not willing to look stupid or fail, nothing good is ever going to happen to you. And then I said, uncertainty is the root of all progress and all growth. If you have control, there is no experience. And I said, whenever you have butterflies and are feeling anxious, that is when you are the most powerful. Then whatever happens, go the distance. And then I said, the joys in the climb itself, fall in love with the process, not the final summit. And then there's like a whole bunch of like little things and just like going over stuff that I've learned from sports psychologists and what I really like for me. But that's kind of like the basic gist of like what that stuff looks like.
Love it.
So yeah, a lot of like good stuff,
Yeah, really good stuff.
Which works for me. But again, everybody's different, Some people don't need to.
But I think by writing it down and sort of documenting it and having something you can refer to, whether some people, like you said, some people it's journaling, some people it's for a notes app like this.
100%.
It becomes more concrete and something that's it's less fleeting. Sometimes when we think so, that works for me, I'm going to keep doing it, but we don't remember why we don't, if we don't sort of put it down somewhere where we can refer back to it, it can become something that disappears on us or changes, even over time, but not on purpose.
Yeah, definitely. And so like before every game, like I'll go to like the bathroom or whatever right before the game. And right before I start getting dressed, and I'll review, my mental notes app and my hockey notes app of things that I'm working on or things that I really want to focus on for this game. And it depends on my emotions before the game. Like if I'm feeling a lot more anxious before the game, then maybe I'll focus on the phrases, that have to do with getting over anxiety and beating my mind and stuff. Or maybe if I feel super calm and I feel really good, it'll be more about like, I am zen, I'm emotionless, like just to keep that feeling going. It just depends on the day, but that's why I have all these phrases that I really like. And even like I find stuff on like social media, like on TikTok or whatever, and it's like some motivational stuff. I'm like, oh, that's a really good one. Like I'm going to write that down to maybe use at a certain point or help it to get over something. And then, for hockey, it was, I have a whole ton of stuff, but it's basically just like every single time that I learn something new or I do something, I'll just like write it down. So like,
is it technical, tactical, or both?
It's all technical. And some of it's kind of just like motivating, like just like be the better athlete. But basically like, so like with San Jose, there was like a lot of things that like I was working on, because I was working with the new goalie coach, and
we know Spearsy well. We got to spend some time with him in the summers up in Kelowna.
So he's awesome. So like we were working on a ton of stuff, and it can be kind of information overload. So like my first game in the NHL, it was just like just survive, like just make the save any way you can. It doesn't matter how you do it, like just make the save. And then the second game, it was like I had worked for like a week with him or whatever, or maybe even less than that. And we had already started to learn so much, but it was like a little bit overwhelming. I didn't have enough time to like kind of get that muscle memory. So my second game, I was thinking way too much, and it was like I was reacting a little bit slower, and I was giving up some crappy goals. And then you give up 1 or 2 goals, and you're like, okay, I'm just going to go back to just make any save that you can, and then you get exposed for the flaws that you were trying to fix in the first place. So it can be a little bit of
that's a pretty tough process to go through in a 6. I think you were 6 days between starts, and obviously, so like that's only 5. Probably had 3 or 4 ice times in that span, and you're trying to do it in the NHL.
Yeah. So the first 2 games were a grind against Chicago, just like trying to learn all this new stuff, trying to just survive a little bit. But then I was able to get a lot of time because Blackwood like played a bunch, and I think they were like, hey, we got to give Cooley some time to like learn some of this stuff. And so like I was able to spend, I think it was like a week and a half or whatever, just with Spearsy, just like working before and after every single day, getting that muscle memory down. It was unreal. And then we saw the result like in St. Louis and Seattle. Like those games weren't flukes. It was like everything finally coming together, all this new stuff that I'm learning, and then feeling really good mentally on top of it, and then just going out and playing. And that's when I think I had like the really good results. But yeah, like some of the stuff, it was like butt up, narrow stance, don't think, react, head first, slow things down, big and relax, set your feet, trust yourself. Lots of like random little like quick phrases. And then I have just like, so in practice, we were working on like just straight shots because we didn't do a lot of straight shots in Rochester. And with Spearsy, we started working on like a new stance and like a new way to like kind of play stuff. And I kept getting beat on straight shots because I'm thinking about all this stuff and I'm getting too wide, I'm getting too locked in. So I was like, in order to like keep my mind clear and just focus on like a couple things, I'd be like, for straight shots, check for squareness, make sure you're set, have your head tilted down, and then just shut your mind off and watch the puck. So then I have that organized. And so then I don't have to think about a million different things. I'm like, okay, just focus on these things and then just watch the puck and then just play. So it's just like, yeah, anytime I learn something new or anytime like I'm working on something or I have something I think can help my game, I'll just write that down super quick and keep it organized. But yeah, there's a million different things on here. I'm not going to go through every single one. But I just think that's a super good tool for like anyone who's still learning. And I think everybody's still learning, you know, to a certain extent, that just anytime that you hear something that you really like or think that something's going to help your game, just write it down somewhere, you know, even for just like the technical side of goaltending and the mental side of things too. It's a good tool. And I think it's a good tool for life as well, especially the mental side of things, because it helps you, you know, outside of hockey as well. It's not just a goalie thing.
I love it. Spearsy, and some of those changes, certainly some of those rang true. Things I've seen him work on up here with a lot of different goalies at one of the camps we attended together over the last couple of summers. Butt up. Was that, and changing the stance, sort of getting a little more over top of things? Was that a big change for you? I think a lot of people, so the narrow stance to get the feet closer together so you have more power and more movement. But man, you sink that butt, you're lost in today's game.
For sure. So like what I found is the reason my butt sat back all the time is I'm still really mobile with my butt sitting back, and I can get really wide in a flare and I can like still push really hard. So I don't get as exposed with it. But where I get exposed is that when I sit back, well, number one, you're way smaller, you know, you're getting beat over the shoulders, but I'm also getting beat under the arms. Like there's holes under my arms because I'm sitting back so much. So there's a little bit of a mess. I gave up like a couple crappy ones, you know, from that in general, both against Chicago. And I was like, okay, like we got to fix this. So yeah, it was sitting up, being a lot more upright. And then in your stance, not getting so low and locked down and not worrying about having your stick on the ice, especially me, because I'm 6'5", you know, so like we worked on being a lot more narrow, not having my hands so far out, but more like a neutral position, letting the puck come to me a little bit more.
More relaxed.
Having my stick on the ice. And it just like everything felt so much more controlled, so much more mobile. I was so much bigger, like filling space. It was just a lot better. And those were definitely the biggest things.
It sounds like in some ways your ability to move from a low, wide stance and sort of with sitting down a little bit, like a lot of guys would be locked at that point. You weren't, but in some ways, because you weren't, you wouldn't have recognized the need or a need to maybe tinker with that.
Exactly. Because it's like I could still move, I could still do everything, you know, and then I didn't realize that I was getting exposed, you know, under the arms as a result of it. And then it wasn't until like there was literally a Chicago game where my second game against Chicago, it was just like literally a little wrister, like from the flank, like through a screen. And when I looked through screens, I would get too low and too wide. and just worry about the flare, and that would force me to sit back. And so I'm looking through the screen. It's just a little wrister. I'm like, oh, easy save. Do my butterfly. I'm sitting back like crazy. I'm so wide, and it just squeaks right under my arm. Like just like such a bad goal, like should never go in. And so like once that happened, I was like, I went to Spiracy afterwards. I was like, okay, I just want to do a million reps till I can't feel my legs anymore. Like I just want to get that muscle memory down because I don't ever want that to happen again. It was such a terrible feeling, And so we just nailed a bunch of reps, and it's still like a little bit of an issue that creeps in, especially when things like aren't going well. But when I have it down and I feel really good, like we see the results like we did like in Seattle and St. Louis, where it was like, okay, like I'm dialed in. My body and mind are working together. I'm not thinking about anything. And so I'm really excited like to work with him a lot this summer and just like get that muscle memory down to where like even when things aren't going bad or I'm a little bit more chaotic or whatever, or are going bad and I'm a little bit more chaotic, those bad habits aren't going to creep back in my game.
Right. So it's sort of almost like a new foundation, a new staple.
For sure. 100%.
Which, that's not easy to do. Like I said, like I know I've said that a couple times now, but I'm kind of like, my brain's kind of exploding here right now. Like you're making changes like that in the NHL late in the season in your first taste of the show. That's not easy to accomplish. Take me back to the first win and playing at home in San Jose, or even the first start. Like for it to be your hometown, to have your family's there. I saw the shots of your mom. Like how special is that?
Yeah, it was insane. Like the first win felt a lot more special than my first game. But my first game, it was just like, that was in Chicago. Yeah. And it was just like all nerves. Like I couldn't sleep the night before. I couldn't even do a pregame nap. I was just like bouncing across the room. I had so much energy and adrenaline the entire time. And so I could feel myself. I was very sleep deprived the whole time, but I had so much adrenaline and so much like nerves. I was just like, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to go. Like took a bunch of caffeine and just went and played. And then once the game started, it felt like way better. I felt a lot more comfortable, but the lead up to the game was really hard. And then, the first win was sick. I was like feeling pretty good, like the whole game, like pretty relaxed. And that's when I really started to do the nobody cares, nothing matters, we're all going to die, because my first two games, the first two periods went incredible. They went great. And I was like, oh, we're going to win. Like this is going to be great. Like in Chicago, it was 2-1 with like 9 minutes left in the third in my first game. And they scored 3 goals in like a minute, like literally like 90 seconds, they scored 3 goals and we ended up losing. Like it was like 4-2 or 5-2 because they got the empty net. And then my second game against Chicago, same thing. It was a 4-0 game. And then after the second, like halfway through the third period, it was 4-2. And then again, they got like 2 quick goals and then they scored in overtime and we lost. And it was just like, I just felt that towards the end of those games, I was getting so intense and being like, oh my God, like only this, I just got to make it through. I just got to make it through like these next 20 minutes or these next 10 minutes. I was just like constantly looking at the clock, worried about the score. I was so stressed for like every single save because I didn't want to mess it up, because I really wanted to get my win and things are going so well. And both those games, things fell apart in the third period. Things turned into a disaster. And it was just so disappointing. So then the St. Louis game came and it was like kind of like a similar game. It was like 2-0 and then it was like 2-1. And they had scored with like a minute left or something like that in the third period. And we went to overtime and we won in overtime and it was amazing. But the whole game, I was just like, nobody cares. Like, who cares? Like, I'm just going to play. Like there is no future. There are no thoughts. There is no future. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters. And I was like looking at the clock, and instead of counting down the clock, I was like, I love it out here. I was like, I wish we could play a whole nother game. I wish we had 2 more periods coming up, when there's like 5 minutes left in the third. I was like, I don't want the game to end. And so I just totally shifted my mindset, and it helped a ton, because then in overtime, like I made a bunch of good saves, like off the PK in overtime, because they had a power play right away and they scored like very last minute. But just like mentally, I was like, I don't even care. Like, this is just fun. Like, I'm just having a blast. And then Eklund sniped the game winner in overtime. And then it was just like, at that point, I was so emotionless, because I was just like, just stay in the present moment. Like nothing matters. I had no emotions. It's like, man, like when they score the final goal, if they score the final goal, I feel like I'm not even going to react. I'm not even going to have any emotions. Like, who cares? And then that's what I was telling myself. And then when they scored, I just like completely lost it. Like, just went absolutely nuts. And it was just like the best feeling. I got chills, goosebumps and stuff. And then to do like the interview after the game with like all my friends and family in the crowd, it was unreal. And I don't know if you saw the post, but my mom was bawling her eyes out like usual. And yeah, it was a really special one.
I love it. I love it. Now, growing up in Cali, how did you like? You're from like? Are you literally like at your parents' place now? Like,
Yeah,
is that when you got traded? You're just like, what went? Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So growing up there, how'd you become a goalie? Who was the guy? Like, was it Nabby? Or
No,
are you young enough that it's not even Nabby? That's how old I'm going to feel in a minute here.
Yeah. So I started skating at like 5, and I think I became a goalie at like 7 or 8. And I just wanted to be a goalie just because I thought it was so cool. So when I was growing up, when I was first a player, the youth programs, we didn't have any goalies. It was just everyone was going out and skating and just scoring on an empty net. But eventually they changed it to where if you wanted to play goalie, you could in your player gear. And I always wanted to do it because I thought it was so cool, like being able to stop the puck. I literally remember the very first goal I ever let in, like when I was like, like 6 or 7 years old. It's still like burned into my mind. But yeah, and so I just absolutely loved it, and then ended up borrowing some gear and trying it out, and again, just loved it. Played it in roller hockey like that summer, and then for my birthday when I was like 7 or 8, my dad got me my own set, and just like never looked back. I just always just loved it. It just seems so much fun to me.
What do you love about it? Like, I think you've given us glimpses of everything, but what was it that drew you to it?
Yeah, I really like how every single game you can be a difference maker. And that's the coolest thing for me, because it's like you go into a game and it's like, oh, maybe this team's way better than you, or blah, blah, or maybe it's a big championship game. And I feel like when you're a player, a lot of the time you have to kind of take a back seat to like how the team plays. Like you can be like the best player in the world, like a McDavid or whatever, and you could score a few goals or whatever. But ultimately, like you really need your team to kind of like help you out. Whereas like I feel like if you're a goalie, like obviously you need your team to help you out a lot, but like sometimes you can just steal games, and that's the coolest feeling ever. It's like you're getting outplayed, we're not even getting any chances on the other net, but maybe we got one lucky goal and we're getting outshot like crazy, but like they just can't score. And it's so cool to like have that feeling. But it works against you too, like you can be the guy that everybody hates. You're the scapegoat, if things go wrong. Like if you're losing, like the first thing people are looking at is how did the goalie play? And so it's great. It's a lot of pressure, and I like having that kind of pressure, and it's a lot of fun to every single, like when you win, it's like a lot of people are usually giving props to the goalie, so it's a cool feeling.
So as you grow up and become a goalie, did you have a guy? Did you have a guy that you're like, I want to be like him? Or as now you're making notes on how to play, were you a guy that watched other goalies and then went on the ice and tried to imitate them? And was there anybody that stood out there?
I really liked Pecorine a lot growing up. Just because of his style and his size. And it was funny because I had signed my first entry-level contract with Nashville, and he was like the first guy I got to train with and skate with in the summertime. And so that was a really cool feeling. He's an awesome guy.
He might be the nicest man in hockey.
Yeah, he's so nice. He's super, super humble, really, really awesome guy. So yeah, probably watching him, and then obviously I watched a ton of Nabokov, but he had a very unique style, like growing up. I watched like Martin Jones too, Matt Murray, when I was a little bit later, like in college and in high school, just because they had similar body types. And Matt Murray, when he went on that back-to-back cup run, like how can you not want to play like somebody like that, But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Nice. Now from there, you go into the USHL at a young age. That's where you meet Joey?
Yes. Yeah,
and
my first year junior.
I read a story. It sounded like you get to the USHL, and had you had a lot of goalie coaching to that point, or any at all, or were you still pretty much raw?
Yeah, so I had like no goalie coaching. We had like a little bit of goalie coaching, like with the junior sharks, but it just wasn't consistent at all. So like my goalie coaching, like throughout my entire youth career, was literally just like trying to teach myself and just try to skate as much as possible. Like all I wanted to do was be on the ice as much as possible. But I was probably working really hard, but probably not very smart, because I had no idea what I was really doing. I just wanted to be on the ice. So yeah, I go from that and playing youth hockey to right into the USHL where everybody's naturally talented and everybody has like, some good goalie coaching. And I just got lit up, dude. It was so bad. I finished. I got called up and like, again, it was just like one of those situations where it's just like, it's just all adrenaline, you just do everything you can to stop the puck. And so like, that's what I was always really good at, is because like I had that natural ability. So like when you get enough adrenaline, you get that like motivation, like I could really do well just off like pure, just like natural talent. And so like, yeah, Joey mentioned like I had gotten called up. I killed it like in the first couple of days of camp. And then I played like a preseason game against USA, had a really good game. And then literally the next day they're like, hey, you're going to be on the team. And I was like, sick. This is so cool. I like couldn't believe it. Because the USHL was like the really good players. So I was like, yeah, I'm not a really good player. Like, no way. And then all of a sudden they wanted me on the team and it was the craziest thing. And then, yeah, that year I think I finished last place in goals against average and save percentage. I don't know how that didn't send me down. I'm thankful that it didn't send me down, but I was definitely like way out of my element of just getting lit up every single day. And so, yeah, so Joey was like, obviously he wasn't very intimidated by me. So he was like really just being a good guy and like helping me out and trying to coach me and stuff because he had goalie coaching his entire life. And then he ended up inviting me to his dad's camp with Stop It Goaltending in Boston. And I went there and they totally just like revamped my style and my career. And like, we started from like complete scratch, like literally like for 2 weeks, no pucks, nothing. And it was just like, okay, stand up. Okay, stand up. And it's like, now go to your stance. And I'd go in my stance. And then they would fix all the things. They'd fix all this and they're like, okay, stand up again and go in your stance again. And I would try to remember what they had told me before. And I would just do that over and over again. And we did that with every single movement, like my butterfly, my T-push, my stance. It was like just completely started from scratch. And so it was a ton of work. Like I remember we had to change the way that like I held my blocker or whatever. And the way that they wanted me to do it, the muscles in my forearm like weren't capable of it yet or something like that. So like literally for like the first week I'd come off and like my hand would be shaking like crazy because I wasn't able to move my wrist. But eventually I got it to like the way that they wanted it. And now like I can hold it really weird and have no issues and stuff. But like, yeah, totally from scratch. It was a lot of work, but it ended up working out. So I'm super thankful to those guys.
Now, along the way, as you move up and get different opportunities, who are some of the other guys that obviously I'm guessing after an experience like that, you probably head back to Stop It as part of your routine for several years?
Yeah, so I've been going ever since. So it's been like 8-9 years now where I'll go there and I'll get an Airbnb or something for the summertime and I'll just go there, skate every single day, sometimes twice a day, and do yoga, work out there, do all the vision training they have there. It's they have a great setup.
I was going to say there's pretty much everything, right? Like if you're looking to check boxes, they've got it.
So it's awesome.
Including, and I'd be remiss if I didn't ask because they've been a longtime sponsor of our podcast, as is Stop It Goaltending with our parent segment, but Sense Arena, you're a user.
Yeah. So that's something I just started doing. And I remember, so I didn't have the best start in Rochester. And a lot of it felt like, looking back now, it was like, hey, there were some big flaws in my game, that I had to fix. But before that, before I came to San Jose and realized the flaws in my game, I felt like it was more of a mental thing. And I felt like I was really struggling in the first like 10 minutes of the game. Like I felt off. Like if I didn't have like a couple of good saves right away, it took me a while to get into it. And then I remember like, in the second and third periods, especially in third, I would feel better and better as the game went on because I got more dialed in. I felt a little bit more comfortable. But a lot of time it would be the opposite too. Like if I went in and I gave up 2 quick goals, it would like reverse. I would feel less comfortable and be more stressed out, And so I was like, how can I get rid of that to where I'm so dialed in before warmups even start to where like by the time the game starts, it already has felt like I've made like a million saves. And so I had started like, I had already done this, but I changed my vision. So I started doing a lot more like I did a bunch of juggling and charts and stuff beforehand, but I was like, I'm going to start doing more game like stuff. So like putting on my helmet and my glove and throwing the tennis ball off the wall, like trying to make it more game like to really get dialed in. And then I played with Levi, obviously, who's like
I was going to ask if the Devin had anything to do with this.
So I watched him put that video out, and I had used it before with Stop It Goaltending, and I watched the video that the NHL did on Joey Decord and how he does it. And he mentioned, he's like, it's great because I go into a game and it feels like I've already taken like 200 shots. And I'm like, that's exactly what I need to do. And the season wasn't going well, so I was like, I got to try something to get me out of this funk. So I tried it in my first few games, like using it went really well. And I was, holy crap, this is amazing. It feels like I'm really dialed in before I even start playing. And so it's definitely felt like a little bit of a cheat code. And obviously it's not an end all solution. Like I've had some bad games off it too, but I've had some really good games off it as well. And it just makes me feel a lot more comfortable mentally going into the game.
Can I ask what drills you do? Have you set up like a program? Are you using puck cannon?
Yeah. So on there, they have the training routines like that's done by pros, and Joey Decord has his morning skate routine. And so I literally just do that. And I really liked it. And every once in a while, I'll change up the drills and stuff if it's like before practice or whatnot. But before games, I'll literally just go through his morning skate routine. And sometimes I don't finish the whole thing, maybe only do it for like 10 minutes or whatever until I feel like kind of dialed in mentally. And then I'm like, all right, good to go.
I know Dev's a big on it. And I know Joey too. Like we did a story this year. Joey like used it in between periods.
Really?
You know, when just maybe wasn't feeling the glove hand. So he loaded up the puck cannon, caught a few in between periods. I had some guys say that, hey, like if you have a period where you see 3 shots and you're not feeling comfortable, like you talked about, throw it on for 5 minutes in intermission, and you sort of get those reps you didn't get in the game.
Yeah. So it's super cool. They've done a really good job with it, and it's going to keep getting better, I assume. So it's definitely a little bit of a cheat code, I think.
Nice. Other impacts, during your time, Milwaukee would have been Dave Rook, I would imagine, for at least at the beginning. Rochester, you would have had Seamus Kotick, both guys that we've gotten to know over the years. As you start to work with different voices, you talked about Thomas. He saw some things he wanted you to do different. Along the way, your approach to sort of new ideas and new concepts and how each of those guys helped you at different points.
Yeah. So Dave Rook, like I worked with him a lot, obviously my whole first few years pro, and we did a ton of stuff together. Like that was a huge transition period for me because it kind of felt like I did really well in college, and then I went to pro and had a really good start in pro. And then it was like, I started to get exposed on these flaws. And that's kind of been like a pattern, as I've gone up the levels, a little bit of like a fake it till you make it, to where it's like, okay, I do really well at this level. Then I go up to the next level and it's like, oh, well, like I'm out of my element. I'm starting to get exposed to all these issues that I didn't even know that I had. And then you're trying to fix all these issues while in the middle of your season, so it's kind of, it can
That's
be
hard.
Really, it's really hard. Yeah. So with Dave Rook, like we kind of hit a point where he's like, okay, like you're just not going to play games. Like I didn't play for like, it was like 2 or 3 weeks or whatever. And we just like worked on stuff every single day. And with Robo too, down in Florida in the East Coast League. So we just did like a lot of his focus was post work, because I really struggle with like the RVH and post work and stuff. Because the RVH didn't come out till I was like in my second year of juniors or first year of juniors. That's when people started using it in the league. So it was kind of like a new thing I wasn't super comfortable with and I wasn't like that great at. And so all we did was just a ton of post work, especially in national system. They love their post work. And now it's like one of my biggest strengths in my game. Like that's just like, if you say like, what are your biggest strengths? I would say like post work for sure. Like it's really good. So that's definitely a credit to him. And he was a big on like the mental proponent as well. Sometimes a little bit more than I wanted him to be. But like he'd be like, it's all mental. I'm like, dude, no, it's not all mental. Like I feel good mental. It's like I got some issues with that game, I think too. But I think he was definitely right in both ways. And
I forgot that you had with time with Josh Robinson, like another guy that we're big fans of.
So I did a ton of post work with him. So like when Rooks wasn't there, it was like every single day before and after practice, we were doing post work and just like trying to work on things. And I really liked him as well. He was awesome. And then with Seamus, in Rochester, a lot of it was like depth management. So like
tactical.
Exactly. So like not being like knowing where you should be, in certain plays and certain areas, especially in Rochester, their practices are pretty crazy. It's like super offensive. So like all you're seeing all practice is like 3-on-0s, 3-on-1s, there's never any just straight shots, a lot of breakaways, everything's backdoor, so it was great.
They're trying to prepare the goalies for life with the Buffalo Sabres. I kid. That's me saying it. I'm not putting those words in Devin's mouth. That's me joking around.
Yeah, so it's literally just like goal scores practice every single time. It's just how many goals can they score, and so
Mindset on that's got to be tough.
It was a transition period. It was like the first couple of weeks, I was like pissed off, dude. This is so frustrating, you know.
When's my turn in practice?
Yeah, like I'm trying to like feel good, and it's just like 3-on-0s where like guys are making 10 backdoor passes, you know, or they'll have a wide open net instead of shooting, they'll have another backdoor pass. It's like driving you nuts. And so the first couple of weeks, you're kind of getting like pissed off because I was the guy that really enjoyed that stuff. And when I played in Milwaukee, I remember going to the coach back, can we do more like odd man rushes and game like stuff? Because I really liked making those saves. It was fun. And then Rochester was like the other extreme of that, where it was like, okay, this is like almost too much even for me, you know, because you're trying to like figure out new things and work on stuff, but it's really hard to do that when the only shots you're seeing are your backdoor odd man rushes. And so you get exposed for those kind of plays. It's like if you're playing too aggressive or whatever, you're not going to be able to make those saves at all. And so with Seamus, a lot of it was like, hey, being a little bit far back, using my size a little bit more, and not having to be so aggressive and chasing pucks and reading plays a little bit better. And so that was a big focus with him as well. And like being set as well and just having a good stance and being prepared.
And of course, I don't even know if you would have been aware of this, but we talk about San Jose roots and how everything comes full circle after the trade and growing up in San Jose and playing you're playing there and getting your first win there. But of course, Seamus would have had roots with the San Jose organization. I don't even know if you knew that with Warren Strelo and the old school Nabokov and a lot of that stuff. He's a great guy.
Yeah, so it's such a small world, you know. The hockey world's crazy small, but the goalie world's even smaller, you know. And everybody knows somebody somewhere or has a relationship with somebody. So it's cool how it all gets connected.
Gear, I gotta ask. I'm just curious. Did you love the position? You thought it was cool. Was gear a part of it at any point? And how's that evolved? Are you just a guy like, give me what I had, or are you dialed into this stuff?
Yeah, I'm not. I'm a guy that if I feel like my gear isn't giving me the best chance to be the best goalie I can be, that I'm gonna switch it and I'm gonna change out and I'm gonna experiment with new things. So I'm not super picky about the gear. I'm not super loyal to one brand or the other. I've kind of like fluctuated throughout my career based off like certain things. Like in college, I was all Vaughn because Matt Murray was in Vaughn. He was winning back-to-back Stanley Cups. I was like, he's got to be doing something right. You know, I had a lot of success with Vaughn. And then when I got to pro, I started noticing some issues with the gear that I wasn't super stoked on. And so I was like, I'm going to try out, you know, another guy. I heard like Bauer was really good. I played with Askarov. He had really liked Bauer, you know, so then switched to Bauer and a lot of those issues were fixed. And I really liked Bauer ever since. But I still use the Vaughn pants. I use the Vaughn helmet. I've Vaughn everything pretty much except for the pads and the stick and the chest protector. And I use the CCM chest protector because that's, I think, what's going to make you look the biggest and give you the most broadest shoulders and the most protection from pucks. So I'm not loyal to anything, and I'm always looking for things that I could potentially change to make me better.
I love it. No, it does make sense because sometimes guys will just stick in a brand because, hey, it's what I've always used, or sometimes it's because, hey, they're going to pay me, as opposed to looking for something that, you know, make sure it performs better. I'm curious though, to go from a Vaughn to a Bauer, it's a very different feeling pad. Was there an adjustment period there? And what is it you like about the Bauer? Like, are you a big fan of the active rebounds and things like that? Is that something you find benefits you?
Yeah. So what I really liked about the Bauers is I had an issue with, the Vaughn, I had the extra slippery stuff on the bottom, and I think that actually hurt me because I was so big and I was moving around so much that when I dropped, sometimes I would still be moving in my butterfly, and that makes it really hard to make secondary saves. And I like the Bauers because when you drop, you just stick, like you're just there, and that keeps me really controlled and helps me go for secondary saves. The seal on the Bauers were really nice. So like up by the 5-hole, like no pucks are sliding underneath. Like it's really great. The pucks explode off the rebounds, you know, which is huge in the pro game, to just get things out of there and not have it just hit you and drop there because you're going to get exposed pretty quick. The toe seal in the RBH was really nice with the Bauers. I like that as well. And then the glove is unreal. Like the seal is really, really great. I like that a lot. And I also use the Connect skates, which is like a pretty new thing.
Is that just this year? Or?
I did that. I switched into those before playoffs last year.
Wow.
With Milwaukee. But it took me a long time to get used to them. It took me like a couple months of wearing them in and out before I got used to them. And the reason I did that was because I was in the true one pieces with those skates, and I was having a bunch of ankle issues with the true one piece. And I felt like I kept slipping too, because I can play really low and really wide. And I felt like with those skates, I kept slipping. There wasn't a lot of bite. And I would watch Askarov because I was playing with Askarov. And that's one of the things I do is that anyone that I play with, I kind of figure out what they're doing with their gear. And it's like, okay, how can this help me? You know, it's like try to steal like some of their ideas. And so I was watching Askarov play, and the stuff that he was doing in the RVH, like with his ankles, and like he'd be in an RVH and he's leaning far over. I was like, dude, my ankle would snap if I did that. I was like, it's like, am I just getting old? Like, is my body chemistry like just not as bendy as he is? You know,
am I just getting old? You're 26. You're killing me.
Yeah, right. But he was like 20 years old. So I was like, maybe it's wearing on me before it's wearing on him. And I was like, and he was getting so wide too. Like he can get so wide.
His ability to push and still have edges when he's so low and wide is actually it's so remarkable.
I was just like, in my house, like, there's no way it's just like a physical thing. I was like, he's got to be doing something. So I was like, what gear? Like, what are you wearing? And he was wearing Bauer skates. And so I reached out to the Bauer guys, and I had tried those skates in the summertime because I didn't want to tie my skates anymore. And that was the only reason I tried them. But what I really didn't like is the heel moves, right? And so with someone, I'm a really powerful, like quick guy. And so like when I push really hard, there's a lot of power, and I push, and I felt like I would push and then I wouldn't move. The heel would move and then I would go. So there was like a delay. Push, go. It was like push, move, then go. And so it was messing up with my balance and stuff. And I really didn't like that. And so I was like, I just gassed him. I was like, it's not going to work for me, you know? So I reached out to Bauer, and they asked about getting like skates that had more of a bite. And I also saw that video of Brossois in warmups with, I forget what team he played for, maybe Vegas, but he had gone from standing up to a full split in warmups while holding his edges still, which was like the craziest thing. And I was like, dude, what skates is he using? So I went to Bauer. I was like, what skates is he using? It's like, oh, he's using the Connects. I was like, crap. Like, I already tried the Connects. Like, they don't work for me. And he goes, well, hold on a second. Like, he had brought up that Georgiev with Colorado was having ankle issues with his true one pieces or whatever. And he went to the Connects, and he didn't like how they moved or whatever. So they ended up bolting them down, and they ended up really liking them. And I don't know if he still uses them or whatnot. And I was like, dude, I'm having ankle issues, you know, with my skates too. And he goes, well, like, I think Askarov has a pair there. You can try them out. I was like, okay, perfect. So tried them out, bolted them down. So now they don't move at all. And now they're like my favorite skates ever. And all those issues are fixed. I never slip anymore. I can get really low and still have a bite. I don't have ankle issues anymore in the RVH, and I don't have to tie my skates. So it's great. But
win.
Exactly. But like, I feel like as a goalie, like that's the kind of thought process you have to have, like constantly, like, how can I get an edge? Like anytime there's a problem in your game, be like, okay, is the problem me, or is it my gear, or like, what is it? Figure out what's causing that problem, and then like be proactive in finding a way to fix it.
And it's interesting because I know Brossois, he definitely modified his a little bit too. And I don't want to speak out of turn because I can't remember what the exact specs were. But now I feel like I got to send him a text message to find out if they're the same change that you made, because he tinkered with them for sure. It's like anything, you can make adjustments, right?
Yeah, 100%. That's the beauty of being a goalie and having like so many different brands and types of gear, is that you can change things and figure out what's going to work for you, because everybody's so different too. It depends on your style as well. So like what works for me may not work for somebody else, and you know, the other way around.
So I got to ask, just out of curiosity, because we did hear this a little bit from some guys, having done the switch, in addition to the ankles, did you notice anything else in terms of wear and tear and how you felt physically in those skates compared to maybe beforehand?
Yeah, it was just like the ankles. Like my ankles were getting killed, man. And I was like constantly doing things to like prepare them. I was doing like a full warm up, like literally full section of my warm up dedicated to ankles, with bands, with hops, with a million different things just to warm them up. And I was constantly dealing with bad ankles, and it just felt like my ankles were always like kind of getting sprained or just like in pain when I was in the RVH, which was annoying because in Nashville they hammer the RVH. They're really big on that, and I was a big part of my game too. And so it's like you're freaking going into practice and your goalie warm up is like backdoor RVH plays and post to post and blah blah. And if your joints aren't good enough, like you're going to be really struggling. You're going to be in a lot of pain, and that's what was happening with my ankles, to the point where like towards the end of the season, I was like, hey, can we kind of like chill like on the ankle stuff? My ankles are kind of hurting, but you also like,
you don't ask.
Yeah, like when you're a pro, like you don't want to be like, hey, my body's not really working for this. Like everything else, it's like they're kind of going to be like, well, why is your body not working, but Askarow's body's fine? You don't want to kind of put yourself in that situation. So a lot of time I just kind of suck it up. And then now that I've had like different skates and they've just been awesome, I have no more issues anymore.
Love it. Last one. What does the summer look like? How long do you like to just talk about letting the body heal and stuff? How long do you stay off the ice? When do you start, when do you head back to stop it? When do you start to gear back up?
So I love skating. That's like my favorite thing to do ever. There's a lot of guys that are like, oh, I'm not skating until like, a month before training camp or whatever,
But you're like looking for drop-in ice and
dude,
like
literally.
public
So, like,
skates?
I told Spearsy, I was like, I'd start skating tomorrow, if I could. But like, I think it's important to like, you got to let the body heal. Like my hip's a little sore, my grind's a little sore. Like I'm fine, but like it's important to let your body heal everything and kind of chill out. So like with Stop It and those guys, they like to say like take 8 weeks. I'll probably do more like 6 or so. Like probably something like that, maybe less, just because I get really antsy when I can't skate and I want to start skating. But especially now because we're done so early, I might take a little bit more time. It's hard for me to take that time because I want to do it. It's a lot of fun. I don't like working out. I don't know if you can you can tell. I basically work out only for injury prevention and for speed and like to be better on the ice, which is I guess what most people do. But there's a lot of guys that like are like, okay, sweet, now I can just work out and just chill and not be on the ice. It's like I would be on the ice 3 hours, 4 hours a day if it never meant I had to work out ever, but it's like, you got to do it, it's part of the job and I still do it. But so, yeah, I'll probably spend, 6 weeks kind of hanging out at home. I'm going to see a bunch of friends, all over the country and do a couple of vacations here and there. We're going to the Mediterranean with my girlfriend and my dad and stuff. We're going to sail around the Mediterranean, which will be cool.
Very nice.
I'm going to Palm Springs, San Diego, just like a lot of like little trips, Colorado here and there, and figure out like stuff to do. And then I'll probably start working out in the next week and a half or so. And a lot of that will start with just like Pilates and yoga and just getting a really good base. And I'll do that for like a few weeks before I start doing like actual weight and dumbbells and whatnot, just to make sure my body's completely healed and I'm in a good spot where I don't start lifting heavy right away and injure myself or whatever. And then, yeah, now that I'm in San Jose, obviously I don't know what's going to happen contract wise or anything, but Spearsy's here. So I'm going to be skating with him a lot to start the summer. And then I'll go to Stop It like mid-July and then be there until Stop It's done. And then find a good pro skate to get ready for training camp, wherever that's going to be.
Well, in the meantime, you can take your break, do your vacation, and if you feel like you need to stop pucks, just throw the headset on, pack that.
Exactly. And that's the best part about it too. Now it's like, I'm definitely going to take the VR stuff with me when I'm sailing through the Mediterranean, on a boat somewhere.
Dude, we want pictures of that for sure. I got a picture of me on a surf vacation up on the rocks. The break is behind me, and I got the Sensorino on with like the big hat, like the huge sort of like cowboy style, but like more like surf hat. And I'm like doing Sensorino with the ocean in the background from a surf
awesome. That's sick. Yeah.
We need some Mediterranean shots.
100%. Last year we went to Mexico and I took my glove and blocker and my helmet with me. And my girlfriend got a good video of me throwing the tennis ball off the wall like at our house in Mexico and just like tracking pucks and making saves. It's like the grind never stops,
Love it.
But now it'll be sweet because I don't have to take my glove and blocker and tennis balls. I can just take the headset.
Yeah, and you don't. I mean, let's be honest. Who wants a stinky glove and blocker in with their swim shorts?
For sure. Yeah, but yeah, I'll definitely have to have her get a picture of that so I can post online. Maybe they'll give me a sponsorship.
We always got to work on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Devin, this is awesome, man. This has been really fun. I know our audience is just going to absolutely full of great advice, but also just the energy and love you have for the position comes shining through. Thank you so much for spending the time today. We really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure. It's been a lot of fun. I got nothing else going on, so.
Awesome. Well, we'll have to hold you to another one down the road.
Sweet. Sounds good.
Listening to that, I want more. And thanks for telling us that he's going to be doing the pro reads because
you're going to
I
get
can't
more.
get enough. I can't get enough of Devin.
He was great, eh? Just like, again, there's an enthusiasm and energy for the position. Bit of a late bloomer, didn't have a lot of coaching, young until he gets to the USHL. Great stories about, ties right in, whether it's Sense Arena or Stop It Goaltending and all the work he did with Brian DeCord and Joey DeCord back at Stop It Goaltending, in Massachusetts, in the Boston area. There's just a lot to love there. And I think there's a goalie there, as you heard, learning new things still at age 26 from Thomas Spear, who's excited about the next step in his career as he continued to add new voices and have new things resonate with him at different times. It was a really, really fun interview.
Stop It Goaltending U, NHL Sense Arena, the Hockey Shop, source for Sports Langley, thehockeyshop.com. We keep you busy as we jump around all of these glorious subjects with the parent segment, with the gear segment, with the feature interview. It's a very, very passionate crusade that we're on when it comes to goaltending. Hutch, Woody, enjoy the back half of the first round. Anything going on over at the website?
We have ProReads from American Hockey League All-Star and NHL. Just finished the season in the NHL and another great start for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Set records in the American League with Cleveland. Jet Greaves, another great breakdown from him. And we've got lots more of that coming at InGoalMag.com, including we will probably roll out a Devin Cooley clip, not just the ProReads, but he's got a great one on sort of how to use your head to seal the short side in the RVH that he actually pulled out the clip for me. He had it on his phone ready so that he could break it down and explain how and why he uses his head. So maybe we'll roll that one out right away at InGoalMag.com in the next couple of days.
Honestly, you have to use your head on the RVH to
unless
jam
you're taller.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
unless you're Gumby.
You can if you have terrible posts, if you have really good posts that are drilled in like the NHL, you can push up into those too. But it's a great thing. Darren, I just came back from 3 days up in Kelowna where I spent a whole bunch of time with James Wendland. So he's become well known on the site for his 5 Damn Things series, and we recorded several more of those. So looking forward to bringing those to everybody as well.
What are the 5 damn things that you there's the hips?
Well, it actually belongs in a parents segment, funny enough,
Really?
almost, because the first one is how parents can assess their child and how parents can do a very, very basic and gentle adjustment that will help them when they're struggling with sort of back pain and hip pain. And when I say gentle, he sort of uses the analogy of you're only pushing or pulling sort of with the pressure you would use on a tube of toothpaste. So we're not turning parents into chiropractors. We're just helping them guide their kids through some stuff that can help them out.
Want to acknowledge, too, that I found the danglers in my office off the masks that are up on the wall. And there's multiple versions of the danglers. So if you guys would like, I will send these to you to make sure that you take care of yourself. Because if you're using your head to seal the post, you're going to get pucks or sticks up there. And I want you to be safe. If you're not going to buy them yourself, I've got danglers to give to you.
Literally.
That is kind of you. Cam doesn't have to ship across the border to get them to us, and we probably should do that.
And literally, Darren, it's one of the things that Devin Cooley talks about exposing when you lift that head up to cover that short side RVH post.
Should be mandatory. But I'm just trying to drill it home to you guys, and then I'll work on the rest of the world after I win that battle. Thanks to Kevin Woodley and David Hutchison on InGoal Radio, the podcast. Thanks for listening, and send us your comments, send us your questions, send us your thoughts in the parent segment, send it everything